Welcome back to Best Hour of Their Day, a podcast for CrossFitters by CrossFitters. And in this episode, I have my man James McDermott back in the studio. This time we are talking about his intern program. If you own a box, or you're a CrossFit coach, or maybe just an aspiring CrossFit coach, you need to know how to get started, where to get started, and even why to get started. And in this episode, James is going to talk all about his phenomenal intern program. It's 8 weeks long, super in-depth. He covers functional movements, the methodology, and he has coaches actually coach, and it's been to great success at Albany CrossFit. And I should know that because I founded the box there, and James went through my intern program. I get questions all the time on how to develop coaches. This is the episode for you. And I highly encourage you, if you enjoyed this episode, if you've learned a little bit from James, to reach out to him. His email is in the show notes, and you can listen in. By the end of the episode, he tells you how to get in touch with him and what to do to make sure you're running a successful intern program. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, reach out to me. Hit me up on Instagram, The Jason Ackerman. We also have a new Instagram, Best Hour of Their Day. And of course, you can email, you can call, you can send up that bat signal, whatever it takes. But I want to hear from you guys. I'm doing this because I love the community. I want to help you grow. I want to help the community grow. So whatever I can do, let me know. And if you enjoy this episode, if you enjoy this podcast, please leave a review. That helps tremendously. All right, I'm going to turn it over to my conversation with James, where we help you guys learn all about a successful intern program. All right, we're back. Best Hour of Their Day. James McDermott is back. If you listened last week, James was on, and we talked about how he is implementing CrossFit.com at the box he's a coach at, Albany CrossFit. I've got a lot of great feedback on that. People really were impressed by how hard you work on the programming, James.
Hey, Jay. Thanks for having me on again. I'm glad people like the podcast.
Yeah, I think people were surprised, but also impressed with just how much you care. And if you're listening to this podcast, you understand, we can sum up most episodes of this podcast with care. And you certainly care about the athletes at Albany CrossFit.
Definitely. And that's what it all comes down to. It's how much do you care about the people you're working with? I've listened to the other two podcasts that you put out, and that's what comes out as apparent is that Austin cares, about everything that he's doing, and you care, and I care. And if you don't care, people will know. People can tell.
Exactly. People can pick up on that real quick, that authenticity factor. And part of your care, and this is the topic of today's episode, is how hard you work on the intern program at Albany CrossFit. So a lot of people are listening, and whether you're a box owner or a coach, maybe you have some sort of internship program at your box. That might look something like, hey, you just shadow. It might look like you dive right into coaching. But I want people that are listening to this podcast, be it a box owner, they can take from this what that intern program looks like, or as a coach, things they should look for in how to develop. Because many people I see week in and week out, they leave their level one and it's cool. I want to be a coach. I'm all in. Now what? So we're going to dive into that. So today's episode, all about an intern program. Do you call it anything special at Albany CrossFit? Is there a name for it?
No, it's just Albany CrossFit internship.
Albany CrossFit internship. I like it.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. And what's cool, again, if you're listening, go back and listen to the first episode, because James and I speak a lot more about our relationship. But James came to me when I owned the box, and he interned. It looked a lot different at the time, but we did do some fun things, and we ran some programs. One thing we did was, I think we called it Albany's Next Top Intern, like kind of a spoof on a reality show.
Yeah, it was like a reality show. We had to do various projects, like building equipment or something that benefited the gym. We had to film videos coaching that we got feedback on. We had to also film a video just right off the bat on why we wanted to be a coach and answer some tough questions, like How are you an asset to the coaching staff? What can you do to improve our community? Things like that.
So you and I are very different. You are far more analytical. You are far more detail oriented. How is your intern program different now? What is, if you had to give me the broad brush overview, what is it?
Well, for our intern program, it's an 8-week course, and it's a volunteer course that anyone at our gym can take. You know that we've found the best coaches come from within. So we're not trying to really necessarily find coaches that are outside from our community. We instead develop athletes into our coaches. So someone who graduated from on-ramp 3 years ago finally gets to the point where, like, you know what? I want to be more involved. I want to help others the way that I've been helped, and I would like to coach. So this would be the first step for them, is going through this 8-week course.
Do they have to have their level 1 prior to that?
No, not to do this course. Although the cool thing is that this course is geared towards prepping them should they go to the level 1, where they'll be a little more prepared, a little more knowledgeable than maybe the average person who just signed up, and have a better shot at passing that test at the end of the level 1, which is no joke. That's a very tough test.
And, and I used to tell not just my interns, but even just people that were taking class that would take their level 1, and I encourage anyone listening, whether you're first day at CrossFit or 3 years in, go take your level 1. I think the people that take it earlier on really benefit in everything they do. But I would tell them, my goal is you show up at your level 1 and it's a refresher. I've done a good enough job as a coach that I've taught you all this. Now it's a refresher for you. There's nothing new, and you're going to be suitable, ready for that test. So they don't have to have their level 1. And you said it's primarily for within. Have you had people from other boxes take this course?
No, never had any people from other boxes do the course. Just our own members. And it's a very cool thing with the way that we run our classes. If you listen to it from the other podcast, our members, I feel that there are a lot of members who aren't even taking the course, that if for some reason something happened and no coach could teach a class, like there's some kind of catastrophe, everyone's busy, who knows, just something happens, no one shows up. We have many, many members that could just step in front and be like, you know what, guys, all right, I'm going to do this. Here's what the workout is. Here's how we should scale. Here's what the WOD means and what we should be trying to get out of it. I'm so confident in the vast majority of our members to be able to do that if for some reason they absolutely had to.
Right. Zombie apocalypse comes through Albany. Yep. Susie can run the 4:30 class.
That's right. I'm in the parking lot with machete, and I'm like, Susie, get them going.
Let's be real. You would be a zombie very quickly.
Oh, I don't think so. No way. Oh, that's a whole nother podcast on the zombie apocalypse.
So
going out like that.
This is an 8-week course, and does it run on consecutive weeks, 8 straight weeks?
Yep, 8 straight weeks. Although I gave them Easter off, of course. But it's 8 weeks, and each week we have a different theme on what we're covering. Week 1, we covered the squat series: air squat, front squat, and overhead squat. And the format of a class would be as follows. The interns come in, and we spend the first 15, 20 minutes cleaning the gym, organizing the equipment, putting in the time to show that we care about the place. And that's really important part for me in particular, because I want coaches coming on staff who care, that if they see a barbell left out or they see garbage on the floor, that they will care enough to stop and pick it up. And I think that when you spend time working behind the scenes in the gym, you have more of a greater appreciation for what the gym actually does. And you will be a more involved member of the staff. If we have an event, you're going to show up. You're going to put in the extra work and go the extra mile to make that experience the best possible for every athlete. So that's the first part of class, just 15, 20 minutes. Then after that, we do a lecture. And the lecture will be on a topic of something involving CrossFit methodology. Maybe we'll break down what is CrossFit, or talk about the different components of fitness, or something else in that regard. And after that, they take their notes. I'm leading a PowerPoint presentation on all of that information. We will then do some practice coaching. So they will watch me or be involved as I coach them on how to teach the air squat. I'll teach the group, and then I'll speak on some of the finer details in between on what I'm doing and why I'm doing and how they might react in a certain situation. And I'll do the same thing for the front squat and the overhead squat. And after class, their homework is to teach individuals throughout the week. So for week 1, if you were in my course, you had to teach 3 different people each of those exercises. You had to find one person to teach the air squat to, one person to teach the front squat to, and then another person to teach the overhead squat. And not only am I trying to give them practice on teaching those movements on an individual basis, they're also building rapport with members at our gym, right? They're saying, hey, my name is Nate. I'm looking to be a coach here at the gym. We've worked out together in classes. Do you mind if I help you work on your air squat? And if I practice teaching you? And members will appreciate that. That's adding extra value to the gym already. And what Nate is doing in that situation is building rapport with a new athlete, someone who he will someday be coaching. And every week we do that with a different set of exercises. So week 2 was the press series. Week 3 was the deadlift. And with the deadlift, we only did the deadlift just because I wanted to spend more time with that exercise, such an important exercise. And when they go to teach people, it has to be a new person every time. So Jay, if you're in the intern program, you can't just teach RAWs every single movement. You have to go out and find new people to build rapport with.
Right. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to dive into everything you just said, but you're talking, the average intern is going to interact with nearly 24 people over 8 weeks if they're interacting with a different athlete every week.
Yep. They're going to get in front of a lot of people, and they're also going to see a lot of different things in movement. They're going to come back with questions. They're required to film those interactions and post it in a private Facebook group that we have so that I can watch it and give them feedback. And I'm watching to see, of course I know there are going to be a lot of things that they need to work on, but also in filming is uncomfortable. I know when I first started coaching and doing these kind of intern things, or when you would have me film mobility videos, I was not comfortable being on camera. But what that did was that gave me more confidence to be in front of more people, because you film one video and X amount of people are going to see it. Well, now when you're in front of a class, I think that helps a little bit with confidence, or at least it did with me.
Yeah, it's funny. I look at some of our old videos on Albany CrossFit often. I show some new athletes, and yours often pop up right away when I search Albany CrossFit on YouTube. And it's funny to see your progression as a coach.
Yeah, so you can tell I'm wicked uncomfortable because I was in college as a very introverted person. Yeah, in a group setting, maybe not one-on-one, but I was sitting at the back of the class. I wasn't raising my hand for anything. And when we had to do presentations, that was the worst thing in the world.
Well, you were prepared to fight the zombies. You were getting prepared.
Yeah, that's right. I was taking notes.
Let me. I want to dive into that. Before I do, can you quickly, if you have it, you gave us the first 3 weeks. Can you give us the next 5 just quickly through those 4 through 8?
Yes. So the week 3 was the deadlift.
Right.
And on the deadlift, they actually had to teach 3 things, which was the hinge. So how to hinge. We have a progression for that. Then they had to teach the deadlift from the top down with a PVC pipe, like at the level 1. Mm-hmm. And then they had to teach the deadlift from the bottom up, from the floor, which is the old classic 5-step method, stance, grip, knees, etc.
You couldn't remember the last 2? You had to stop there.
I'm trying to list out stance, grip, knees, chest, pull.
Yeah, I was worried because I taught you that. So I was wondering as Coach Rip's old progression.
That's the Ripito method right there.
So
like they had to teach those. That's week 3.
And what's 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8?
Week
so people
4,
listening. Yep.
Week 4 will be the med ball clean and the sumo deadlift high pull.
Cool.
Week 5 is the snatch, gets its own day.
Yep.
Week 6, we're moving on to the split jerk and some miscellaneous exercises that do pop up in our classes, such as a lot of gymnastics things, handstands, muscle ups, things like that. Then week 7 is a little bit different. It's actually the whiteboard. So we're going through all the movements. We're going through structures of classes. Week 7, we will do the whiteboard, and they'll have to, I'm still kind of working on it, either do it in class or just teach like practice runs on the whiteboard, like write Fran on the board and then, do this briefing in about 3 minutes on all the things you need to talk about.
If only there was a great podcast on the whiteboard brief.
I know. Funny I mentioned
direct
that. Right?
them to, right? So There you go. In the archives, the whiteboard brief.
You did not slip me a 20 to mention that. The new quote, week 7. No, but that is week 7. And then involved with that is a discussion too on scaling. So we haven't even talked about the different lecture topics, but that's scaling is involved in there. And the final week, or the final kind of presentation, it's not really something they would need to do on their own, but I do plan on getting a large group of athletes together. And essentially week 8 is you teach mini classes. I'm going to try to get like 15 Albany CrossFit members at the gym to come in, and you have a little workout to take them through, or a section, and you teach all these people right now. So I literally throw you to the wolves, and hopefully you're prepared by now to teach a bigger group. And
what week are you currently on in this program?
We're on week 4.
All right, cool. So you're next Sunday. You gave them off Easter. Next Sunday they go to the med ball clean, sumo, deadlift, high pull.
Yes.
Okay, so that's great. I just wanted the people listening to kind of have an idea of if they wanted to do it themselves, and hopefully you have something that we can share with the listeners if they want. I don't know if you have it out there or you can create it.
I have an unfinished presentation that isn't really ready to be sent out.
Okay, but when it is, we'll have you out there. You can promote it, because this is something you've clearly worked very hard on. But I'd love for people out there to be able to take this back to their box. So Let's dive into it. And I don't need to get into the nuances of each week. It's kind of self-explanatory. You're squatting, you're pressing. That's what you're teaching. But let's kind of go through. You broke it down. You said, okay, squat series. Regardless of what series, we're spending 20 minutes and all we're going to do is clean this gym.
Yes.
So, and I love it because, there's a really good soundbite in there, and I'll probably cut it so people can listen, but it's like, you got to care. And I agree. A mistake I've made in the past is a handful of people I would bring from the outside, and it was not the same as the people that would come up, from joining on day 1 to, going through classes and becoming a valuable member of our community, and proving that you care. So people may be like, well, it's an intern program. Why do I have to clean? If you're not willing to clean, I don't care how well you coach the squat. I don't want you as a coach here.
Yeah.
And so that's really awesome to see that you're just building that community. And here's something I would tell you. It's like, look, this is very clear to me. You're spending a lot of time and energy on it. So if you're not willing to, wipe off a couple medicine balls with me, and knowing you, I assume you're in there with them doing it. You're not like sitting on a chair eating a sandwich while they're, mopping the floor. You're in there getting dirty with them. So that's really cool to see that you implement that. Now,
it's like on my first day at the gym, it was explained to me back when you owned it. This was Kevin who told us to me. He said, if I can't trust you to take out the garbage, to mop the floor, and to have attention to detail, I can't trust you to lead a class or to help an athlete with the same level of attention to detail and care. So what I'm looking for is are you going to work hard? Are you going to maybe come up with solutions? Hey, these wall balls could probably be organized better. Okay, let's do it. Let's try it. Are you just going to kind of just go through the motions and be disgruntled and not care? And you're going to probably put that same level of effort into coaching athletes.
How you do one thing is how you do anything, right?
Exactly.
And coaching is a privilege, and everybody wants to coach for an hour. I get a free membership. Maybe I even get paid, and I'm the, looked upon by these members. It's a prestigious opportunity. Cool.
Exactly.
But you have to earn that right.
On that, we have had many people over the years who were not members approach us about coaching. I get resumes all the time on someone who just graduated from college, just like I did back in the day, or they teach and they personal train at some other gym, or they're moving to the area and they have their level 1. And I'm like, okay, well, part of our process is we would like you to be a member of the gym for a little while, get to know our community, let people get to know you. Obviously, so we're not going to bring you right on. And with any of those people, I would do the exact same thing. Okay, here's how you take out the garbage. Here's how you close the building down. Here's how you do this, and see if we can trust you. So we've had many, many people come in, and none of those people who were not initially from our community wanted to take the time or go through those steps to be a member of the staff. I had the impression right off the bat, okay, you just want a free membership. You want a free membership. You want to just stand in front of the room and tell people what to do and get whatever accolades, if there are any, that come with coaching, and that's it. And also focus on your own training. But that doesn't tell me that you are going to be all involved and passionate about our community.
Yeah,
when it comes to coaching, it's not about you, it's about them.
I love that. And I think one thing you do really well with this intern program is the fact that they do have to coach so many people throughout it builds that rapport. And it's not the same as showing up and just being in front of people, because your members need to know and trust your coaches. And, there's no better way to do that than being in the trenches with them through those hard workouts, sweating, and then ultimately high-fiving and being a part of the community with them. So with that being said, is there a level in which someone can approach you? I moved to the area, is there a level, whether it's a level 1 to a level 4, where you say, welcome, you're a coach, or someone with a level 4 shows up, they still have to become a member for a given time?
Yep, I would say so. I think it doesn't matter. I think you could have your level 1, or your level 4, and still not care. You've just gotten yourself to that level. I think you need to prove yourself to the gym, and you need to earn the trust, regardless of your level. I would Rich Froning, Dave Castro, Greg Glassman could show up to the gym. I want to coach. Maybe I'd let Greg coach. I was gonna say, where we go with this? Yeah. But you still need to go through the steps, because at Albany CrossFit we have a standard, and I don't like to let standards slide like that. I would rather uphold it. And if that means losing you as a potential coach, well, that's okay. I'd rather Steve from the 330 class in a year, when he's ready and loves Albany CrossFit and he has an Albany CrossFit tattoo on his back, I want that guy. I want that guy that lives and breathes Albany CrossFit and isn't just trying to roll in.
Back in the day, I used to give out a free membership for life if you got an Albany CrossFit tattoo, and one person took me up on it. Remember, Jay?
Yeah.
So I love it. I love your stance, and I love how the beauty of James is you don't waver on anything. And that might be, from form to whether you let Coach Glassman coach at the box. So that's what's great about you. So let's go further.
You have to have a standard, for better or worse, I guess.
So I agree. So you go through this, they clean, you give a lecture on methodology. Let's assume, week 1, are you basically doing your best to replicate the level 1 kind of lecture? So you're giving the What is CrossFit lecture. You're talking about functional movements. We're talking about intensity. We're talking about constantly varied.
Yes. Yeah. So the first lecture on week 1, we talked about, and I kind of defined what is CrossFit. And then I defined what is coaching. So for what is CrossFit, that's just like you said, constantly varied functional movements, high intensity. And I kind of broke down each of those components. And I also talked about how those things tie into what we do at Albany CrossFit. Then I went into, since the class is about coaching, well, we have to probably define coaching, or at least have some philosophy on what coaching is, and some practices that define a good coach.
So let me ask you, sometimes In your elevator pitch, because you sometimes can give me these long definitions. How do you define coaching?
All right. So you want the elevator pitch.
I don't want, because I know what to expect if I just throw it out there.
So you don't want me to give the 45-minute lecture, right? Okay.
I'll do me a favor. Record that when we're off the air, send it to me. But for now, give me the elevator pitch.
So the bullet points. What is coaching? And this is my definition. And I explained this to the interns. This is my definition, and this is my philosophy. And it has taken close to 15 years to get to this definition. If day one at SUNY Cortland, they said, write down your coaching philosophy, I would not have been able to do this. It would have taken some time because I had no experience. So this is just where I am now, and it continues to evolve.
I like how it's been 2 minutes and we've not even started the definition.
Exactly. Yeah. So right. What is coaching? Coaching, I think by definition, is about helping and guiding other people while fostering positive relationships. There we go. Fostering positive relationships.
So repeat that again. Coaching is
about helping and guiding other people while fostering positive relationships.
And you created that definition?
Yes.
I like it.
That's off my head. And coaching cannot be effective without trust between the athlete and coach, without integrity within the learning, training, and sporting processes, and without safety placed at the forefront of all activities.
That's impressive, James. I like it. And I think that's really great.
Finally,
well, there's more.
Coaching requires an appreciation and respect for movement and the human organism.
All right. Here's what I want you to do. Yes. I do like that, and I think it's worth you saying again. I don't want to interrupt you.
Okay.
Can you read that from the top, the full thing?
The full thing. Okay. Coaching is about helping and guiding other people while fostering positive relationships. Coaching cannot be effective without trust between athlete and coach, without integrity within the learning, training, and sporting processes, and without safety placed at the forefront of all activities. Coaching requires an appreciation of and respect for movement and the human organism.
I love it. I think you did a phenomenal job there. And I hope the reason I had you repeat it is not just because I want to snag that so people can listen to it on repeat, but also because it was worth listening to a second time. That's a awesome definition. And I think what's cool about that is it's not limited to fitness, right? It's safety, but safety can be whether you're squatting, but safety can be many reasons, many things. It can be just mindset, right? You could be teaching something on an educational level and you'd be like, there's no way to make this unsafe. Well, it is, because if you tell someone they're failing over and over again, all of a sudden they're unhappy and they can go to a dark place. So whether it's preventing loss of a neutral spine or keeping a positive mindset, that's a great definition of a coach.
Yeah. So that would be the general outline of my coaching philosophy. And then, of course, I have a breakdown of qualities that I think a good coach should have. If you want me to go into that.
Do I dare ask? I do want you to go into that. But before I go into that, I do like to drop some nuggets along the way. And before I have you talk a little more about that, I think one nugget you dropped earlier is filming yourself coaching. Because people often ask me, like, how do I develop? And it's one, you got to film yourself. You have to make yourself uncomfortable. You have to be able to go back and analyze it. And you also have to get other eyes on it. And if I'm coaching someone one-on-one and you're watching, it's a very different experience than if I just kind of set up a camera, forget it's over there, and go about coaching. And, whether you send it to me or you send it to James, we'd love to see that so you can develop as a coach. And, back when I used to run the intern program, I'll give you a great example. I don't know if he's still at the box, and I hope he's not listening. His name is Peter Gannon. Is he still at the box?
Yeah, he's still at the gym. He's not coaching currently, but he's just an athlete.
So, and he went through the program. I think he coached a little, but he was doing it more to learn. And he would do similar to what you were doing, and I would have him film himself. So he's filming himself coaching the air squat to someone. He sends it to me. Every other word he said was right, like that. You're going to do this, right? You're going to do that, right? Now, mind you, Peter Gannon is a pretty successful business person. I don't know exactly what he does, but he looks like he's relatively smart and successful. He's definitely smart. And I was like, Peter, come over.
I believe he's the vice president or the president of the United Way right now.
Yeah, so he's a smart dude is what we're saying. And so I said, hey, Peter, he sends me the video. I watch it. And he did a pretty good job. He's personable. He was actually helping people. And I said, hey, I just want to show you something. You could be even more effective if you eliminated this word. When you say right or you say okay, you're basically removing your authority. You're asking someone, did I do that right? Is that okay? So I said, watch this video and let's count how many times you said right. No joke. We watched this video. He said, I didn't hear myself say it once. I said, are you serious? I said, you're messing with me, right? He said, no. I said, let's watch it again. And I'm going to, know every time you do it. He had no idea, and he didn't even see it when he watched it. So it was really eye-opening to both of us. Like, this is how important it is for you to film yourself.
Yeah. And I think what we're essentially saying is you have to evaluate your own performance in coaching. After every class, I ask myself, what could I have done better? And then I try to adapt and do it better in the next class. Even on the podcast, I hope I'm doing a better job this time. But I listened to last week's podcast again, and immediately what I noticed is that I said a lot, or as I was trying to gather my thoughts. And I'm like, I never say and I'm just not used to doing podcasts. So my goal today in this podcast is to not trip over my words that much, and also to not say so frequently. And look, you are doing a better job because I have to evaluate.
Yeah, I think that's for anything you're doing in life, right? We're kind of a little off topic, but as a coach, if you just show up, coach a class, and don't think about what went right and what went wrong, you're not going to develop. It's something I do. I often coach the 3:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays here at my box in town. And when I'm done, I think about my class. I think about what went well. I'll shoot out a text to the rest of the coaches where there's 3 more classes that night. Like, hey, maybe try this, maybe try that. But if you're not working on improving and you're not thinking about, if you just, get to that point in life where you're complacent, you're not going to develop. And I think, and going back to your definition, based on your definition, you can never be complacent and be a coach.
Yeah.
How's that? Add that to your definition, James.
I'll add an asterisk at the bottom of the thesis.
I like that. I do want to hear more about it, but I want to kind of stick back.
And it's kind of cool. And I know you're dabbling into some stand-up comedy pursuits.
Yes.
I love stand-up comedy, and I go to shows frequently. And one thing that I notice is that everyone, when they go up on the stage, doesn't matter how, like I saw Pauly Shore, and even he did it. They bring out their phone and they record their set so they can listen to it again. And Joe Rogan talks about it all the time on his podcast, how he listens back and he listens for the laughs. He listens for his inflection, his punchlines, what went over well, what didn't, and then he adapts it. So everyone does that. Even professional sports teams watch their games over again.
Yeah, so, not everyone does it. The best do it, is what you should.
Yeah.
And I agree. Funny enough, on my flight home last night, I was listening to that episode of Rogan where he's talking about how as soon as he gets in the car, he hooks it up, he listens to it, he thinks about where he can move words. And this is a dude that's one of the most successful comedians in the world. So if you're listening to this, you're probably not one of the most successful coaches in the world. You need to be doing this. So
just a piece, a resource that people could go out and purchase. I haven't done it yet myself. I have a long list of books I want to read, but this will apply to stand-up comedy, but also I think anyone who has to speak publicly. On Joe Rogan's podcast, he mentioned 2 books that he thinks people should read who are doing these types of things. And the first one would be Enter Talking by Joan Rivers. And the other one is Ladies and Gentlemen by Lenny Bruce. Both legendary comedians who obviously have a lot of experience standing in front of a crowd and working that crowd.
Cool. I wrote those down. I'll add them to the notes, and they're going to be on my to-read list because, yeah, I trust your opinion, and yeah, anything that has to do with that, I think will develop. Because honestly, coaching, we're going to continue to dive into this, but you have to be comfortable and confident talking in front of others. If you're not, it's apparent right away, and it doesn't matter how much knowledge you have if you can't express that. We talk about at the level 2 seminar, the 6 criteria: teach, see, and correct, presence and attitude, group management, demonstration, teaching. It's all about, taking your internal knowledge and bringing it externally. And if you can't do that well, for whatever reason, you're not going to be an effective coach. Let's go back.
Those things that you just mentioned are big components of our intern class. We, week 1 in the lecture, I go over those very specific components, and they're being graded on it. We're discussing it constantly.
How many people are currently in your intern program?
I have 5.
5. And I mean, I don't think there's a right or wrong number. I think if you have more than that, you're probably allowing, while it's open to anyone, we want to have that 5 group, the group of 5 that's really dedicated. If you have too many, it might come off like it's too easy to do. And I think good coaching should look attainable, but it should also look challenging.
I capped it at 8 people, and I had about 8 people contact me. And before the first meeting, when I laid out what we're going to be doing and the goals and all the work and whatnot, some people just didn't have the time, or for one reason or another decided it wasn't for them. And I expected that. I expected people to kind of drop off over time. And there were others in the course who, once we got rolling and they actually had to teach and do some of these other things, they're like, wow, this is way harder than I thought it was. When I'm taking class, I thought this would be way easier to do. And I think anyone thinks that, like, especially like with, since we're on the topic a little bit, stand-up comedy, anyone thinks they can go and stand on stage.
Everyone thinks they're funny.
On stage and the lights are on you.
Yeah. I mean, I've not been on stage yet, but I was at a workshop, and there are definitely people that are not funny. I can tell you that. And not only not funny, it's like sad. I would say it's the opposite of funny. They're sad. So you have 5 now. So 3 people have dropped out?
Yep. 3 people. And then some, so actually I might have had more than 8, and then some just dropped off before we even started, once they asked more questions and got going.
And that's cool.
I have a solid group of 5.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And I think a good coach like you does make it look easy. I think that's great. I want, it's virtuosity, right? Doing the common uncommonly well. I want you to think this is easy, because then it just shows that I'm doing my job well. So I think that's okay that you have that. So of these 5, how many do you expect to actually become a coach at Albany CrossFit?
Right now, honestly, I would say.
And I know they're maybe listening, so I don't want to throw them off. You don't have to use names.
Well, no, I'll be honest. I would say there are 2 to 3 that I'm very, very confident in, and would have no problem putting them in front of a small class if I'm in the room. And is another that I would maybe want to work on some things a little bit more. And then there's another who needs more time doing CrossFit, period. Just because they're newer to CrossFit. So they need to learn themselves how to do CrossFit and get more CrossFit experience. And that in turn will help them be a better coach. So a
couple follow-ups. I assume if you finish this and you do want to coach, at the end, you still have to attain your level 1 certificate. So you have to go to the weekend, pass the test before coaching. But assuming
we are hosting one Memorial Day weekend.
So you've made it very easy for these people.
Yeah.
Then go do that. Perfect timing, right? Well, that'll probably coincide right around the 8th week. So they're going to be very set for success at this level 1. Now, assuming they make it through the 8 and they pass their test, are they guaranteed a spot coaching?
They're not guaranteed a spot to, for lack of a better term, own a class or like all of a sudden you're on the schedule, they would still need to go through and assist and start to get more time, with the general population in classes day to day under Coach Lewis or Murph or myself or Pat. They would just need more time in the field, so to say.
So tell me what that looks like. We've kind of dissected what your intern program looks like. Without looking at each week individually, we get an idea of the format and how intensive it is. But someone successfully completes all 8 weeks and then they pass their level 1. What does it look like from that graduation standpoint to, hey, I now coach the 5:30 class on Wednesdays?
Well, the next step would be if maybe that is a goal of theirs, the 5:30 class on Wednesdays, then you need to start assisting the 5:30 class on Wednesdays specifically and get to know those people and continue to learn under Murph. And as you're assisting in that class, I would contact you in advance on what the workouts would be. And I would give you advice on, hey, these are some ways that you can be helpful in class. And of course, they'll get guidance from Murph. They'll say, hey, make sure these people over here have their equipment or scaling right, or this is where you're going to set up the demo. But I would just give them kind of an outline of some things they should be doing. And Murph would be included on that conversation. So he knows kind of what their assignment is and he can add to it or take away from it as he feels fit, because I trust him to do that.
And I want to let me give a knowledge bomb real quick here, because, someone's listening and maybe they're just a coach, or maybe they just passed their level 1. Because I used to have this issue. It's like, all right, now you're an assistant. And they would be like, man, I'm not moving up. And I would always say, whether it was my class or, you're assisting under Murph. Well, what are you doing to show that you can handle that? Right? So you're a new coach. Cool. You're on this email thread. I want more. I want you to say, can I run the warm up? And here's how I would do it. Can I run the whiteboard brief? Can I run the cool down? We know that at Albany CrossFit, we do .com programming. You've expressed and explained how detail-oriented you are. Well, can I run the kipping pull-up progression? Point is, be proactive. And it's not just take initiative, not just, can I run this, but here's how I plan to run it if you allow me to.
Yeah, and show that you can bring that value to class. And that's whether that would be amazing if someone was doing that. So my intern's listening right now, take note. That's a great quality for someone to have. And if not, then I would also over time say, I want you to do the briefing at the whiteboard for this class tomorrow, or I want you to lead a warm up. What do you plan on doing for your warm up? Or here's the mobility. So I'll also give those assignments throughout their course of shadowing. But I also want to see them take that initiative. Yes.
Yeah, because I'll be honest. There are times when I would coach, and at points in time, we had 20 coaches on staff at Albany CrossFit. Many of them, in that assistant role, and I'd be just into class and forget I had an assistant. And it wasn't malicious. It wasn't. I could use their help, but at the same time, I just would forget. So I need you. This is not my responsibility. This is your responsibility.
Yeah, I would say if you are interning or assisting in a class, make it painfully obvious that you are more useful than the foam rollers hanging from the wall.
Exactly.
And not just standing there watching,
And here's my biggest piece of advice for both roles, as a coach and as an assistant in class, is the 80-20 rule. It applies to many aspects in life, but it definitely holds true in a CrossFit class. 20% of the people in your class are going to be 80% of your effort. We all know those people in class that need that TLC, need to be told exactly how to scale, need to be reminded what a thruster is, even though they've done it a dozen times. As an assistant, if you can help with those people, you make my job significantly easier and I can be even more effective. So not just from that position, but even as a coach, I need to be like, hey, there's, Anne, Marie, and Donna, not to be using specific names from Albany CrossFit, but there's Anne Marie and Donna. I want you to go help.
Around, yeah.
I want you to go help those 3 people during class, and that's it. That's your primary focus. If you do that well, you're going to make this a better class. So something for aspiring coaches, but also current coaches to think about that 80-20 rule in class. All right, let's start to put a bow on this. Your intern program is phenomenal. Let me ask you this. How long does every week of class take for you to prepare?
For me to prepare?
Yeah.
There's that word. Couple hours. 2 to 3 hours, I would say.
I don't think that's true. I think it's significantly more, but that's fine. You're putting together a PowerPoint presentation. You're watching footage. You're probably
you're probably right.
interacting
And
with
also,
them.
we have quizzes too. So I make them quizzes based off of the last lecture, and I'm trying to gear them towards what they might experience on the level 1 test, and then we take those quizzes. So that probably maybe 4 to 5 hours.
And you're also not including your time there every Sunday.
Yeah, and our meetings were planned to be about 2 hours, but we typically go about 3 hours because there's just a lot to do. There's when you get discussing things, when you get practicing. So back to maybe the format of the class. After that initial week where we did the air squats or all the squats, we came back week 2. We did the cleaning. We did a teach back where now they teach the group how to do the air squat or the overhead squat or front squat. So they're now going from teaching individuals to teaching a small group of other interns. And then I give them feedback, kind of like the way we used to do when you were at the gym.
Yep.
And then after that, we do a lecture. And then after that, I teach them the next series of movements. And starting week 3, we inserted the quizzes. So now we started to have quizzes because I had to get a little bit of content out there before we could start doing quizzes. So it's quite a loaded course.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to be able to share this with people. I'm sure people that are listening will want to find out how they can run this at their box. And, the last thing that I have written that I wanted to discuss with you is this is also a great way for you to prepare for your level 3 test that you're taking soon.
Yes. Yep. I've been studying for the level 3 for maybe about 6 months now. And what's awesome is that not only do I get to review a lot of this material maybe more frequently than I would normally, but also I have to be able to teach it to someone else who doesn't know it at all, that I think will have me be prepared even more so when I go to sit down on the exam and I'm asked a question on CrossFit methodology or something else. And if I'm able to teach it, I think I'll know it way better.
Yeah. And people ask me all the time, how should I prepare for my level 3? And I'm like, study everything. And that's exactly what you're doing. So this is mutually beneficial. You're developing these 5 people to become good coaches, but at the same time, you're becoming a better coach. And I have no doubt you're going to pass your level 3, when you do sign up for it. And if you're listening, it's no joke. I spent all 4.5 hours in that classroom at the computer taking it. It's a tough test and you need to go in prepared. I know some very good coaches that did not pass that test. So I'm sure this is helping you prepare. So
yeah.
For coaches, affiliate owners listening, is there anything else you would add to this? So, they're developing their intern program, whether they follow that 8-week structure you do, whether they include, that cleaning aspect, teach backs, anything you would add to that so they can develop their own or just run a successful one?
I would say think about first what is beneficial for your gym and what your gym needs, and then seek out those people and offer up opportunities. Then if you're trying to develop your own course, the information's out there. It's right in your level 1 manual. It's just how to use it. Keep it simple. You used to say that to us all the time. Keep it simple, stupid. Hurt my feelings every time, but I think that would be the way to do it. Just keep it simple and keep it in line with what your gym needs, and then look for individuals who care.
I love it, James. Once again, how can people get in touch with you?
You can follow me on Instagram at James A. McDermott. You can also email me at james.amcd@yahoo.com. Or you can stop by Albany CrossFit, pay a visit, maybe drop in for a class, say hello. We are doing that level 1 Memorial Day weekend. And if you come for the level 1, maybe you stay and do Memorial Day Murph the day after. We're expecting a huge turnout for Murph. Make sure you follow at Albany CrossFit on Instagram. And that's it.
Yeah, if you follow your Instagram, you post a lot about this intern program, so I highly recommend that on both your Instagram and the Albany CrossFit Instagram. And you can see a lot of what's going on, and you can see, I'm sure you'll have plenty of footage on that, the level 1 and Murph. It's great to see that tradition continued. And your email is in there. I'll make sure it's in the show notes. So if people do have questions specifically about this, reach out to James. He's obviously a wealth of knowledge. And here's what I recommend, James. Put this together, sell it for $9.99, not $9, $999. I think it's that valuable. I really do think it's that valuable. You will, I don't think James is going to sell it for $1,000, but I do think running a program like this is going to benefit your box tremendously. So it's really cool to see you have that. And one thing James did not plug is his books. Obviously the Own Your Eating book. He's also wrote The Dark Orchestra with John North, 2 new books coming out in the near future with Glenn Penley and Charlie Zamora, formerly of Caffeine and Kilos. So James, it's been great to have you.
Out. And I would say too, if anyone is interested out there, if you want to contact me and if you just want to have me out to your gym for a weekend or a day, kind of take a look at the inner workings back end of what you're doing at your gym. Maybe I can offer some assistance there too.
Cool. Best way to do that is that email?
Yep. Best way to do that would be the email.
All right. I'll definitely make sure that's in the notes. Once again, thanks for being on. I'm sure we'll be on again, diving into other informative topics for box owners, but it's been a pleasure and I'm glad to see you doing so well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on, Jay.